Yeah, take two. Here we are. It's Thursday, February 17, maybe, and do a little episode here on homemade tools. So this thing here is my homemade shop press, and it'll take an awful lot of pressure. Now, I went out to where Princess's Auto, and I bought this press here, which does a really good job. It's because it's configured to do things nicely, right? Wait till I find my measuring tape. Here it is. So it's when it originally came, it wasn't really big enough for some of the stuff I wanted to do. So on the inside measurement here, it's like 10.5 inches, and originally it was only like 6 inches of space in here for pressing stuff. So I changed the configure. I put in an extension of square bar onto. I just cut the shaft there. I cut this thing here and put an extension of a square bar in there to make it a longer reach in here. Now it's got a 6-ton jack on the top here, and it's actually pretty well designed so it holds the pressure all right. And you just jack down that. It came with this business here where you could hook it up to your air pressure system, press a button, and away to go. But that just gets way on you. Makes it move too fast for my liking anyhow. And so this part here is adjustable. You can move it up or down, and down to a lower spot, or put it right to the ground. And it works well, but it's not wide enough. Like, it's only this 10 inches wide in here for some of the things that I wanted. So all of a sudden I needed a bit bigger shop press, and one with more power. That's 6 ton, and I needed a heavier one. So I built this thing here, and it's 17 inches square on the inside. So it's 17 inches, or 16 inches across that way, and 17 or 18 inches up that way on the inside. And it's from, like, I do a bunch of artwork. I guess you call it art. I don't know. Sculptures. And I like finding old farm implements for doing sculptures. And this rig here, this is an old farm implement that, you know, it's these came in it. There was an axle that went across. An axle went across here, and then those things fit into it. So this half here that is the mirror image of this half down here. So each one of these was an implement that held those things, and there was about 4 or 5 of them, maybe 5 or 6 of them across there, and it was for cultivating tobacco fields. Now, they don't grow much tobacco down here anymore. So my nephew Eli, he had this on his farm. He's with the monks, and this was on the farm just in a pile of junk. So he phoned me up and asked me if I wanted it, and I said yeah. So I got, you know, a lifetime supply of those things there, plus a bunch of these things. And there's not much form or shape to these square things, so I was using them for stands and stuff like that. But then when I needed this shop press, I figured, well, they'll work good because it's good 1/4-inch steel or better, and the top and the bottom is these angle iron things. Now there's a little bit of a hoop to that now because I've used it for some heavy pressure. So I went down to when I bought that one there, it came along with these 2 black things plus a couple other things for lining stuff up. But you can go to Princess Auto and you get what they call a what is this thing called? Hang on. Yeah, you can get what they call a shop press accessory kit, and it comes with these 2 big heavy steel things, and then some of these little things like that, little things like that. You need all these things for the, you know, this is a race from the bearings on the BMW. And then I've got, this is sort of just came along with farm implements. I'm always looking for farm implements because they have nice curves. Then I've got a set of these 1-inch drive sockets that they certainly do. There are all sorts of sizes if you want to get something to go inside it, you know. So now my wife's, my dearly departed wife, her stepdad gave me this set of sockets years ago. And they're very, very handy for big stuff. He also gave me this tool chest, and it was full of tools, and he gave me lots of stuff. He was a very nice man. And so, anyhow, here it is. So what you do is you got your 12-ton, I've got a 12-ton bottle jack here. I also have a 20-ton bottle jack that I could use if I needed to, but the 12-ton seems to be adequate for everything I do. So you get your stuff set up in here, what you want to press, and then you just crank it up and it presses it together. I'll put some footage from the BMW that I did last year when I was doing wheel bearings on it. And I think I have some footage from changing the, what do you call it, whatever you call that thing down there, the lower ball joint on this car, which was, you know, very, very difficult to get in and out of there. There's a snap ring, and then you got to press it out, and then you got to press a new one in, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, works pretty good. So there's homemade tool number 1. I've also, like, this is just an old rail, like I've got so I built, what do you call that thing? It's a sawhorse. I built a sawhorse. And then this is an old piece of railway. So I just stuck that on there, and it's got some nice curves to it across there, plus a flat on the top. And then I've got this little vise on here for holding stuff if I need to. Other thing here is an anvil. And the anvil is really handy, but you need a solid base for it. For that's an old tree that I cut down in the backyard here. Most of it went to firewood, but I saved that block just to put the anvil on. I made it the right height. And it works quite well for lots of stuff. Now I think I've shown you this one here before. This is my little punch for making these little punch outs for, you know, repairing holes in welding. And this works really quite well. I think there's a video on this one. You just take, like, this is 2 half-inch pieces of steel. I think that's half-inch steel, yeah. And I drilled a hole in it, and then I put a spacer of two pieces of 20 gauge steel in here as a spacer, and then I welded the back side of it together so that it's like that. And then this is an old drill. So you just take your old drill and pound it through, and it punches a hole just like that, and you got a little, and you have a little insert. Looks like similar to that, but that one's a small one, right? So, and then you put that in your hole and weld it into the spot where you need to put it. So that's, well, three or four sort of homemade tools here. There's one more I'll show you. Yeah, here, more on the homemade tools. So this thing here, I made this to bend sheet metal. So I've got different sizes of gaps. I've got, this thing here is the shaft out of a shock absorber that came off the BMW that I replaced. That's another shaft of a shock absorber. This piece of pipe here is a, used to be like one of those garden things with a roof on it, so you get shade. And, you know, so I just cut a piece of pipe out of that. This piece of pipe is just a piece of pipe that was hanging around. I don't know where the hell it came from. And then I got a bolt there. So different sizes gaps. So there's a gap down here that's big enough for sheet, you know, any size sheet metal that you use. This gap here is, you know, different size gap here, different size gap there, and a bigger gap here. So when you wanna, we're gonna pretend this is a big piece of sheet metal. When you want to bend it, if you want a tight curve in it, you stick it into this one here, and you can get a pretty tight curve in it. If you want a less tight curve, you stick it into this one here, and then you get a curve like that in it. If you want, and then this one here is for different sizes, hey? Different style stuff. And same over here. Then if you want to, like, you can put a pair of pliers on here and squeeze it together and get yourself a little hoopy thing. Then I'll show you, and then this bit here, I built that for bending pipe. Wait a minute, I'll get a piece. Yeah, this is that fuel line that I use on everything these days. And it's pretty big and it's heavy duty stuff, but it's hard to bend. So that, I built that so I could make it's very hard to bend. So I can make a nice curve in this, you know, without putting a pinch into it when you want to go around a corner. So there's lots of corners for putting fuel lines in, like this one here. It goes all over the place. It starts at the back. Whoops. Starts at the back there, and it comes along here, and then it crosses the bottom, then up, and then there you can see that curve in there that I made. So we get around that corner. And this stuff here is very, very difficult to bend, but that certainly makes it an awful lot easier. Then I guess there's one more little tool here. This thing here, this is one day I needed a dolly like that. These ones here, I bought them at Princess Auto, and they work pretty good, but sometimes you need a flat one like that. So I had a piece of axle hanging around and a piece of, this is just a piece of, half of a piece of angle iron. And I cut off and cleaned up, and there you have it. So those are some of the homemade tools. That's English wheel, that's not homemade, and that's a bead maker, and that's not homemade, but they all work pretty good. Anyway, that's all for that, and I'll show you some footage of actually using the press in action. Yeah, I forgot to mention that this, like when I put these two pieces together, the bottom and the top half, then I welded them together. I butt welded them together on the seam right there, cleaned it off, butt welded them. Then I put this piece of 1/4 inch steel on the outside of it, and then welded it on so that they'd be pretty solid. And it's held up to any pressure I've put on it so far, so it seems to be pretty good. Yeah, so, well, here I am. How to solve that problem of getting those bearings in there? Well, I think I got it solved here. Now, I had this shop press, bought it at Princess Auto, and it's not a bad little one. It's a 6-ton thing, and you know, you hook the air to it, and away it goes. It does a good job. But it was too narrow down here to be useful for getting bigger things in there, like this. So now I've got it so that fits in there, and I can push the bearings in from this end, and then I can also work up a jig so that it can push the other bearing in onto. Oh, that's a heavy thing to lift up. I'll put that there, and then have a jig to push that thing on without putting side pressure onto the wheel bearing. And that should solve my problem. Hopefully I don't ruin any more bearings. We'll just see how it goes. It'll be a few days before the new bits arrive anyhow. Now I might be able to use the press to get that bearing out of there. I'll give that a try and see what happens. Yeah, so I don't know if I recorded that or not, but anyway, there it's all set in there, and the bearing is coming out the bottom here. It's pretty near out. So I'll just finish pumping it out and I'll show it to you. Yeah, here you go. So that's empty, and there's the bearing. Didn't do nearly as much destructive damage as I did on the other side pulling it out, because I had the proper tools. Yeah, so I had to make another little adjustment to my pipe bending tool. I put this bolt on here, so it's got a wider gap there. That's for this is the pipe that came out of it. You can see it's got a, maybe I'll just put it in there. See how it's got those two bends in it there. This goes to the tank end, while
not really, it goes to this is the vapor line that comes back from the motor. So this goes to the, what do you call that? This goes into the back of the car where there's all that vapor stuff. And then this comes down towards the engine. So I put that on there, and then I've got this, well, how can I show you this? There you are. So I got this coil of pipe here. That's just fuel line stuff. Well, pretty heavy duty stuff though, and it's hard to bend. So I got that bend in there by, sticking it through like this, and then put some pressure on the spots where it has to bend. So that works pretty good. I'll get this on the car. Yeah, so there's that, what do you call that, a shop press. Now I did make it bigger in here for taking bigger stuff, but it's not quite wide enough to take what I want. So I went out to my pile of junk, and this is a, oh, what the hell is it? It's a cultivator for tobacco farming. So after when they cultivate the fields, the tobacco plants have pretty tough roots, and they don't do any more tobacco farming, or not much tobacco farming around here anymore. So I got a bunch of this stuff out there, and I use these star things for making like artwork type stuff. But I see this part here is pretty goddamn solid, and it might make a nice base for a press. And I kind of planning on making it so that it hooks onto that and onto that beam there. I'll put the beam up a ways, hook it on that beam, and hang it from there, and then make it into a little bit of a press for getting those wheel bearings like they're in that I couldn't get in with the other press, because I took a hammer to that one, and I think maybe I was a little bit lucky there that I didn't break anything. So I'll try and make it so I can do this one without having the hammer on it. Yeah, so there I've got two of these things. I figure I'll just put one that way, and then the other one inverted on top of it, and then you got a shop press. Just put a jack in there and a press. So that'll work. And it's wide enough to fit those wider pieces. I got to cut out somehow. This got a piece of metal in here that wasn't factory installed. So I'll cut that out and then weld the two of them together. Whoops, here I was pointing over here. Weld the two of them together so they're up and down right, and put a brace on them, and that'll be good. That would be, and then put a bit of a thing to put the jack on here, and maybe a couple of legs to keep it steady. That'll be a nice little press for bigger items. Yeah, try this again. So I put on my apron. Hopefully you can see that, because this thing here is going to throw some sparks when I start cutting that out. Yeah, there we go. That'll be the frame, and welded together solid. Don't think I have to worry about that going anywhere. Then I'll put a plate down here to rest the jack on, or actually I'll turn it upside down because I want these bars on the lower part. So I'll put a plate here and put the jack on, and then that'll be all it sort of needs. I'll put a couple of legs on it. There you go, one homemade shop press now. That'll fit those bigger things in there if I need to. And I got a bit of work to do on this. I got the new bushings came today finally, plus the snap ring that I've been waiting for about a week for it to come along. So I'll put them in that and there, bushings first. And I guess I got to cut out the old metal bit in there, and then after that it'll be press the new stuff in, see what happens. Now here's a little feature that I put in here. I welded a bolt on here, and I welded a bolt on the other side, just so that when I drop it in the vise, which I plan on using it when it's in the vise, I'll drop it in the vise and I don't have to hold it so hard because it's damn heavy. So I just drop it in there and then tighten the vise on it. And then when I loosen the vise, it doesn't fall out. and it'll swing back and forth. Yeah, so that worked so far. I've got it in there about a 1/2 inch so far. I'll just keep on going with it. I'll have to put a spacer up at the other end there before I'm done to give room for the, whatever you call that thing, give room for the rubber end to go through there. Anyhow, I'll keep at it. Okay, there's number 1 put in. Yay. And you can see the bow on that thing up there, but all the welds are holding together, so it must be good. Had to use a 12-ton jack on it. Yeah, so I hung my plate steel up here with a piece of, with a bunch of electric tape. I know, you can't, if you can't fix it with electric tape, it can't be fixed. There's the whole gadget there. 12-ton, I guess that'd be a 12-ton press. It's getting to be kind of a bent press up here. Might have to reinforce it with something sometime along the way. Anyway, I've put it on the floor, and I've got, you can see all that, eh? Yep. I've got the lift for the car, just a little bit of weight on it to keep it from, it'll move, but it won't fall over. Now, I'll get the pieces. All the pieces to the puzzle are over here. That's pretty near straight. And it's going in. Yay! Now I have to let it out. Take this thing out of the top of it. Just turn it around the other way. So the whole thing will come through all right. Then crank it in the rest of the way. There we go. I think we might have success. As long as nothing breaks. We'll just see. Now that was a long bit of work for getting that in there, but I'll clip it out a bunch of it, but you don't have to see that pain. There we go. Yay! Did it. There we go. Now, oh, here, you're still with me? Yeah, so there, the control arm parts are all together now.